Brilliant. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year to all present. Welcome to Breckland Council's Cabinet meeting on Monday, the 6th of January. It's 9:30, so we'll commence today's meeting. Item 1, then, minutes of the previous meeting held on the 11th of November 2024 can be found in pages 3 to 11 of colleagues' agenda pack. Members happy that it's a true and accurate record? Super, thank you very much. Apologies for absence, Ben.
We've received no apologies. Thank you, Chairman.
Super, thank you very much indeed. Item 3, any urgent business? I haven't received any. Item 4, any declarations of interest? If any members have any declarations of interest pertinent to today's meeting, please let me know when we come to that relevant item. Otherwise, I'll take them as noted. Item 5, non-members wish to address the meeting. As always, you are all most welcome to speak on any item of today's business. Item 3, Chairman's announcements. Only announcement I've got is in relation to the government's white paper, which was announced at the end of 2024 in December. It's been moving immensely quickly on both parts of devolution and local government reorganisation. I am aware from seeing the agenda pack, which has been released at Norfolk County Council, that Norfolk County Council have a item on that at their full council this Thursday. They've stood up an emergency meeting. I have no understanding as to the intent and direction of the leader of the county council. They have still not written to me formally to make me aware of what their position is on devolution and LGR. As a local authority, and as I've responded to many questions from Councillor Jeremy and Councillor Atwell previously, I am supportive of devolution in principle if it is meaningful devolution and not decentralisation of powers, in which it allows local authorities to undertake the task to support both residents and businesses. In relation to LGR, I'm immensely sceptical, as you'll be aware, and I look forward to seeing the further detail which the government are going to be releasing later on today. Myself and the Chief Executive have a meeting with the Minister tomorrow with other leaders across the country to understand what is in the finer detail. As it stands, though, there is no current role for Breckland Council to be playing in the decision-making process of local government reorganisation. The Minister has only requested upper tier authorities to respond to their desire to undertake local government reorganisation, which I think is immensely disappointing because it will impact all residents and businesses across the fine county of Norfolk. But I will keep all members updated as this progresses and moves forward. Item 7 then, Breckland community funding applications. Councillor Ashby, please. Oh, hold on. Councillor Clausen.
Yes, Chairman, I was just wondering if what I'm hearing is correct, that if LGR does go ahead, that any unitary that is formed, or any 1 or 2 or 3 that are formed, will inherit the £1 billion debt that county has, and that Treasury is saying they won't be writing it off. Is there any truth in that you've heard?
Yeah, so in relation to that, the initial indication from both ministers and senior civil servants of the department is they won't underwrite any debt of existing councils. For Breckland Council, we are a debt-free authority. We do buck the trend both within the county region, but more importantly, nationally. And any new local authority which will be formed will inherit those existing authorities' debt. So for the residents of Breckland, it will be an immensely challenging position. And I think that the challenges local government find themselves in are due to appropriate funding as we move forward. And I think that's the exam question we need to be answering here. How can we appropriately fund local government, and particularly adults and children's social care and temporary accommodation and homelessness, which are causing the greatest pressures and demand-led services? Until that's resolved, I don't think we should be rearranging the deck chairs in local government to what should be a more suitable level of local government supporting residents and businesses. And the clue's in the name. It's local government. But we'll move on to item 7 then, which is Breckland community funding applications. Councillor Ashby, please.
Thank you, Chair. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody. We've recently finished round 3 of the Inspiring Communities Match funding process. We'll be meeting later on this month to conclude the applications, the successful applications, so I won't be able to report back on them until the next meeting. But what I can tell you, other than round 4 is currently open and in progress, is that the Community Transport Grant Award that is ongoing, we've recently agreed a total of £1,000 with regards to 2 recipients, Helping Hands and the Pantry Kenning Hall to reimburse the volunteers collecting food for the food hubs, as well as transporting service users on shopping trips, job interviews and medical appointments. And Breckland Cancer Support Group from Thetford, offering financial assistance to members to help cover their cost of transport fuel and cost of parking while attending medical appointments. In addition to that, we've got the community's Spark Fund. Recent successful application was at Litcham Jubilee Hall, where they will be opening, thanks to the fund, the refurbished Village Hall throughout January, February and March of this year for 2 hours on a weekday afternoon each month to create a warm space soup lunch, where local residents will be invited to come and have a free bowl of soup and a rolled piece of cake and a hot drink. And lastly, in terms of the Household Support Fund, in December, we've supported 66 residents with a total amount of £19,800. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much, Councillor Ashby. Any questions or comments in relation to that funding stream and announcements? No, thank you very much, Councillor Ashby. So move on to item 8, today's substantive business, the Breckland draft budget, medium-term and capital strategy for 25-26. Councillor Cowan, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, colleagues, and Happy New Year to everyone here today and those watching online. And before us today, we have the draft budget, medium-term financial plan and capital strategy for your consideration for the year ahead 2025 to 2026, together with our projections for subsequent 3 years. You will recall that over the past few years, finances for local government have been challenging. This situation has been exacerbated by a range of factors outside of local control that has resulted in a disproportionate impact on the ability to manage and maintain balanced budgets. In Breckland, we have been able to withstand much of this external pressure through judicious use of our resources, entrepreneurial measures, reserves, and supported by a sound financial position. Nevertheless, we are now facing what may be described as a perfect storm of events looming on the horizon, including a lack of clarity regarding the national funding environment, a business rate reset, fair funding review, significant funding cuts, demographic changes, reduced income, and demand pressures in services such as temporary accommodation, revenues and benefits, and waste services. However, despite the above, I am pleased to propose a balanced budget for the years 2025 to 2026, and moreover, in 2026 to 2027. And that budget protects frontline services, reallocates funding to services with known demand pressures, maintains core services, and allows us to invest in our corporate priorities, and specifically those what I call discretionary services that are so valuable to many of our residents and businesses in Breckland. And you've heard a few of those through our Inspiring Communities Grants programme in the previous item. The papers before us today contain detail in the various appendices, but I believe that it is appropriate to draw out some salient points that underscore the funding challenges and the measures we are taking to meet them. And Appendix J, developed in partnership with our funding advisors Pixel, and those of you who have sharp eyes will note that this is a new item on the papers. This highlights various scenarios, outcomes and timings that we have used to support our proposed financial modelling as we look ahead. Paragraph 1.9 on page 13 identifies the significant funding reductions and additional income and our proposal for a council tax increase, together with a methodology to manage the national insurance increase announced in the recent budget. In paragraph 1.10, we identify the impact of the reduction in the Rural Services Delivery Grant and particularly the timing of the announcement. Future funding complexities are explored in paragraphs 1.11 and 1.12, and that highlights that this budget contains higher levels of estimates than normal, whilst in paragraph 113, the implications for the Council of implementing new waste requirements are identified. NNDR and the implications of the impending business rate reset are explored in paragraphs 114 through to 117, and the proposals for the new homes bonus are set out in paragraph 1.18. Confirmation that the proposed annual increase in council tax £4.95 for a Band D property, meets with the legislative requirements is shown in paragraph 119, and the efficiencies achieved and proposed are scheduled out in paragraphs 120 to 122. Paragraphs 123 through to 132 sets out proposals addressing second homes and empty properties and council tax penalties that are specifically targeted at repeat offenders regarding single person discount fraud. The draft capital strategy and capital programme is explained in appendices G to H. There is, of necessity, a considerable amount of detail in this paper before us today, and together with the Breckland finance team, I'm happy to take questions. In the meantime, I commend the draft budget, medium-term financial plan and capital strategy for your approval and recommend that the draft capital and revenue budget estimates, the draft medium-term financial plan and the draft capital strategy are reviewed and feedback provided in preparation for the final budget setting in February 2025. Thank you, Chairman.
Lovely, thank you very much. Phil, any questions or comments in relation to the budget? Paul?
Thank you, Phil. And congratulations to you and the team for putting together a draft budget in these very difficult circumstances. No doubt, as you have said, this budget has been prepared under the most difficult of circumstances, and certainly some of the most difficult circumstances that I've seen in my time here over the last near 20 years as a councillor. I mean, the CBI today reported that sentiment is low and reducing moving forwards. Sam, you talked about the uncertainty around devolution and around LGR. And Phil, you referred to the fact that funding will continue to be tight, if not tighter still. And the fan chart that Pixel prepared in Appendix J really does reveal massive uncertainty moving forward, particularly in years 3 to 5 onwards. I think the last time I saw a fan chart that sparse and broad was in 2008, when the Bank of England were coming out with similar economic forecasts moving forwards. There is no doubt that there are massively challenging times ahead, and there will be difficult choices to make, and they will be uncomfortable. And some of that uncomfort, I think, is shown in some of the detail, but ultimately we cannot pull away from some of the serious financial challenges that we face. But what this budget does do is give us a blueprint in order to continue to do the things that we must do, in order to give us the ambition to do things that we want to do, and the challenge that means in those areas where we simply cannot afford to do something, we should not do it, or we should find ways of making sure that if we have to do it, there are appropriately funding provisions in place to do. I have no doubt this is a challenge moving forwards, but I do believe that as we've demonstrated in challenges in the past, Team Breckland will be up for that challenge. Congratulations, Phil.
Thank you, Paul. And your point is well made about the fan chart. As I said in my introduction, this is a new piece of work that we have within the papers today. And I think it's essential. The way finances nationally and world events are unfolding gives significant weight to the need to look a little differently at the way we manage our finances, the way we're able to look at our investments, and the way we're able to provide the services that our residents need, not just the ones that we have to provide, but actually the ones they need, which I think is perhaps more important. And it is, without doubt, the team here at Breckland that are managing this process incredibly well. Yes, as an executive, we set direction, we look at policy, we understand what we're trying to achieve. But without the sound advice and the diligence of the team behind the finance department, we would not be in this position today. So thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Councillor Jeremy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Phil. I had an opportunity to read these papers over the Christmas break, and obviously you was at the Scrutiny Commission just before Christmas, so sort of was straight back into it in the new year. The bit that jumped out at me the most when I was looking through these papers was section 1.24, where it talks about as recently as October 2024, 552 second homes in the Breckland district and 974 empty homes. And it's been a long while since I've seen them sort of written down in that way. And actually, it was quite stark to me, actually. They're quite significant numbers of both sets of information. I couldn't find in my notes anywhere over the last few years where I've seen it written down, and I wanted to understand, is this a growing problem in the district? And I wasn't sure, so I'd be interested to know if you're aware of any sort of historical information. And I wanted to better understand if we are using all of the levers available to us as a council to try to bring those numbers down, because I note there it says that 376 are already being charged a council tax premium. I mean, obviously that's only roughly a third. There is new legislation. Are we using that to the full extent? And the reason I ask that, because if you look in the stats below, 140 families a night in the Breckland district in temporary accommodation. I mean, actually, those numbers combined of empty homes, second homes, we could address the temporary accommodation issue relatively easily if we actually tackled a proportion of those two statistics. So it really jumped out at me, so I'd appreciate some commentary on that. And then secondly, on council tax discounts, I couldn't find anywhere what the scale of the problem was. I appreciate there are people out there who are not informing us if circumstances have changed and they continue to get the 25% discount. I wasn't sure how many that was and what the expected saving might be. I'd imagine it's quite small, but I'd be keen to understand. I mean, these are going to be, I would imagine, people on very low incomes, chaotic lifestyles. I want to be clear what the impact is going to be of this particular change. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. I'll come to Councillor Suggett, reference empty homes and second homes as the relevant portfolio holder, and then come back to Councillor Cowan and maybe the Section 151 officer around council tax discount. Sarah.
Thank you. The second homes and empty homes piece is being picked up as part of the housing strategy of all of the priorities. What we've got listed within the housing strategy, empty homes and second homes is one of them in there. And it would be really lovely if we could have a little look, have a chat with all of those people, and then tie up our people in temporary accommodation to those. It's not as easy as that, but there is some work what can be done, and there's multiple reasons why people have got a second home or an empty home, and understanding what that is. Some people don't want the burden of those second homes, empty homes, and some of them actually would appreciate a hand in trying to figure out what to do with them. And some people, it is their choice to have that, and they'll pay the fees to have them sitting there and what have you. But that piece of work is being picked up within the housing strategy, combined with the other priorities in there, which is all aimed at trying to get as many people as we can out of temporary accommodation. Thank you.
Yeah, you can take a horse to water, Terry, frankly, but if people have individual ideas about how they wish to manage their own financial position, there's not a great deal we can do except do what we're allowed to do. And you'll have noticed that we are actually implementing paragraph 123, talks about the empty premium. And wearing my other hat with Anglia Revenue's Benefits Partnership Liaison Committee, it's clearly a problem which is addressing all of the local authorities within Anglia Revenue's partnership, which is why we've taken the view in that joint committee to do more to try and force and encourage people, where possible, to actually bring those empty properties back into use in one form or another. So yes, we are doing what we can, and as Sarah has identified, it forms a key plank in the housing strategy. And it's one reason it's in this paper today, in this form. We want to be more transparent. We want everyone to understand the scale of the problem. As you rightly say, we've talked about it in the past, but we've never actually seen hard facts as we have here today, I don't think. It is a significant number, it really is. But we're fortunate in the fact that Breckland is not in the same position as, should we say, North Norfolk. But it's encouraging, if I may say so as well, that we do have people who want to come here to Breckland with a second home and invest in our wonderful market towns and our rural areas. So that's a constructive item. As far as the premium is concerned, the council tax discounts, perhaps Alison can give you a full detail on that.
Thank you. Yes, so you're quite right. The numbers in terms of the money raised is not huge, but we do get the council tax income, and obviously the police and villages and towns and county will also see their council tax share. So it's more about bringing sort of highlighting this, and we'll make sure there's some comms alongside it, and we'll be looking at those people initially who have been in receipt for a very long time. In the first 8 months of this year, you're looking at about 250 odd cases that we've identified this year, and last year was around about 400 in total. So there's still some quite significant ones there.
Brilliant, thanks. Does that respond to your questions, Terry? Super, thank you. Any other questions or comments in relation to the budget itself? Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to pick up on what Councillor Jeremy said, the figures of the empty homes. Do we know how many of those empty homes are owned by the housing associations working in Breckland? Because in my opinion, there should not ever be any empty home houses owned by the associations. And I do know they do have them because I've had in one of my villages in my ward 3 fires over the last four or 5 years, and one of the housing associations without naming has moved these people into empty homes. And I'm thinking, well, I've had people banging on my door because they want a home, and then all of a sudden these people have had a fire, unfortunately, and moved into an empty home. And I feel that there shouldn't be any empty homes owned by a housing association. So if that can be a priority in the housing strategy, then I think that would be appreciated.
I believe the figures which are in there are privately owned homes, but I will just double check that and come back to you, because like you say, there shouldn't be any in there which are from the housing associations, albeit there is churn within those, and there will be moments in time when those homes are empty, but I will just double check that, and if it is incorrect, I will let you know.
Brilliant. For no further questions or comments in relation to the MTFS, there's a recommendation on agenda item 8, which Councillor Cowan has presented. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That is carried. So we'll move on to the next item of today's business, which is item 9, the Anglia Revenues and Benefits Partnership. This is for us to note. Any substantive items you want to draw to our attention, Phil? Any questions or comments in relation to these minutes? No, thank you very much. So then our final item, item 10, date of the next meeting, that will be on the 10th of February 2025 at 9:30 here in the Anglia Room at Elizabeth House. I now formally close the meeting. Thank you.